Let's talk about technostress in missionary contexts. By technostress, I mean the stress that is caused by technology and how missionaries experience it in their own unique ways. So, if we talk about computer-mediated communication, that's any communication that we do with through electronics. Missionaries have an awful lot of different ways of doing this. They have computers, they have smartphones, they have tablets, and they have countless apps and websites for communicating with their home office, the people whom they serve, their supporting churches and individuals, banks, government officials, providers of commercial services, and other missionaries. There are lots and lots of ways of communicating when you're a missionary, just as there is in every area of life nowadays. The missionaries have an awful lot of stakeholders that they are involved with, so the computer mediated communication can take on an extra special role in their life. Now, doing computer-mediated communication, communicating electronically, there's costs involved to that. First of all, there's the monetary cost involved with buying the materials, the smartphone or the computer, and the subscriptions that are involved for internet connections and the such. But there's other costs as well, too. There's a loss of efficiency compared to face-to-face communications. When we're talking to each other face to face, we can see their face in full resolution. We can hear all of their intonations. We can dialogue. We can ask for explanations. The face-to-face communication is just far more effective than electronic communication, especially if it's not happening in real time or if only the text messages or written messages are being communicated. But there's also psychological costs involved with computer-mediated communication. And this is the category that technostress falls under. So we're going to define technostress as the negative impact on our attitudes, thoughts, and behaviors, or on our body, the way our body's reacting, that's caused either directly or indirectly by technology and how we use it. So it's basically getting stressed out because of technology. Now, missionaries have lots of stressful things going in their life. The missionary lifestyle is characterized by stress. First of all, there's cultural adaptation, trying to learn and understand a new culture, the language learning that goes with that, which is not easy as an adult. So we want to integrate into the culture, but at the same time, our desire is to share the gospel with people and to change the world essentially so that people will follow Christ. That's a pretty heavy burden. That can get stressful at times. Typically, missionaries also live in urban situations, urban settings, which the city life has tons of stressors associated with it. And then there's also a weird phenomenon where missionaries are both rich and poor relative to others. Missionaries tend to be poor compared to their friends and family back in their sending countries, and they can often feel poor and deprived that way, but they're often rich compared to the people that they're living among and whom they're trying to serve, and so they can feel guilty for that. So that's a big source of stress for missionaries. And then as the Apostle Paul said, there's a daily pressure of concern for all the churches. All these people that we're trying to serve and care for, we really do care for them, and we get stressed out by the needs that they have and what we can do about it. So there's a lot of stressors in a missionary life, and one way of looking at stress is that it's a person's response to a negative or potentially negative event. So we look at something that could be really bad and we say, ooh, that's going to get me stressed out. If it's not going to be very bad, it might not stress me out very much. Now, how much an event stresses us out depends on our own personality. It's not a question that certain events are more stressful than others. It's how we evaluate them. So kind of a little formula that we can use to estimate how stressful something will be is that there's a potentially negative event occurring. We assess how dangerous this situation is, how much it's going to cost us, how much it's going to hurt, how much it's going to make us look like a fool, all kinds of costs involved. We assess the danger, and then we assess our danger, our ability to respond to the danger. And if we say, "Oh, I know how to handle this," then it's not going to be as stressful as if we say, I really don't know what to do in this situation. A common example is greeting people that you've met when you're first starting out in a new culture and you're struggling with the language. The danger of greeting somebody inappropriately is very high, and if we don't really know how to do it, we can get stressed out by having to greet somebody. Whereas many years later, there's still a danger if we don't greet somebody in the right way, or if they take something as an insult that can really damage a relationship. The danger is still there. But if we've increased in our cultural skills and we know how to respond in that situation, our assessment of our ability to respond will be higher, and we won't feel very much stress. So the stress is the difference between how dangerous a situation is and how well we know how to respond to the situation. And so Technostress will be looking at the dangers and the pressures and the pains that technology causes, and we're going to compare that with our ability to respond, how well we think we can respond to that. Now, here are some feelings associated with technostress, some symptoms that things are not going well because of technology. One is a compulsive need to be connected, to constantly check one's cell phone, or to constantly look at social media, or to make sure that one is always reachable. So that's a compulsive need to be connected. Another feeling associated with technostress is the feeling of being forced to respond immediately. We feel that the expectations of others are that we respond immediately when they contact us, and we need to respond to meet their expectations. Another feeling is this idea of being trapped in multitasking, that there's so many different things coming at us from different directions that we can't concentrate on just one thing. We also have to be monitoring our email and our text messages and maybe social media. And so we feel trapped in going from one thing to another. Another feeling associated with technostress is the inability to concentrate on complex problems where we can work uninterrupted on difficult problems, the problems that require innovation and creativity and deep thought, because we're getting bombarded by other symbols, other signs that we need to respond to the technology around us. There's also a loss of work-life balance when we feel like we're always working, never resting. Then there's the feeling of just being constantly interrupted by one thing or another, not being able to work continually and give our concentration fully to a specific task. Now, to understand technostress, one of the things that we can do, and one of the things that research psychologists have done, is that they've studied what stresses people out and have come up with different classifications of technostress. And so historically, over the last 10 years, there have been 5 major categories of technostress that have been studied. The first is known as techno overload, and that's the pressure to work more and more, and due to technology, the idea that, I'm a missionary, I'm going to be a witness, I'm going to start a church, I'm also going to communicate with my support team regularly through prayer letters and a blog and Facebook and Twitter, and just all kinds of things get added to our list of things to do. Or we can get the overload from being exposed to too much information and not able to filter through it. Maybe we're really good at getting at focusing on things. And in our social media feeds, there's tons of things that will pull us into it, and we get overloaded with the information because we can't pull away. There's too much information for us to process. That's techno overload. Techno invasion is the idea that technology is invading our lives, and it's interfering, especially work-related technology, is interfering with other aspects of our lives. Perhaps it's interfering with our personal relationships. Perhaps when we're supposed to be talking to somebody, we get distracted by a text message or an email that we receive on our cell phone. Perhaps that we don't have any time to rest because we're constantly responding to messages day and night, on our days off. All the time we feel the pressure to respond to these messages that we get. That's techno invasion. Then there's techno complexity, which refers to the time that we lose when we're trying to figure out complex technology. All technology has various levels of complexity. Some people are really good at figuring things out, others are not. So different types of technology will stress out different types of people. We've all had the experience of installing some new software or a new app, and it just takes a long time to figure out how to use it, how to do it. And so because of techno complexity, even if it's not complex to others, can cause us to lose time, which is a big stressor because we don't have the ability to do the other things that we feel that God has called us to do. Another type of technostress, which is probably the one missionaries feel the least, is techno insecurity. And that's when our job or our status is threatened. Missionaries probably don't worry too much about being replaced by some type of automation. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But if we don't stay up to date on different technologies, we can feel a loss of status. We can feel that we're out of date, and that can cause us to be insecure when we don't know about the latest social media or the new devices that come out and things like that. We can just feel threatened and our status can feel threatened because we don't have the expertise that it seems like everybody else has. So this techno insecurity is one of the few techno stresses that is felt more by older people than younger people. Most of the techno stresses are felt more by younger people than older people because older people tend to handle stress better. They have more life experience. They have higher positions in organizations. They have more control over their schedule. So measures of techno stress tend to go down with age, except for techno insecurity. And then the fifth type is techno uncertainty, and that's the inconveniences that are due to changes in software, to updates, to system updates, to updates in apps, to getting new devices and setting them up, and also bugs when the system crashes or the software doesn't do what it's supposed to, or something causes us to lose the data that we've been entering. That's techno uncertainty, just this inconvenience that when it happens at the wrong time just messes up our whole day. So that's the fifth type of techno stress. So what can we do as missionaries to respond to techno stress? Let's look at things that we can do on both the individual level and on the organizational level. On the individual level, it's good to limit the use of social media. Social media has been designed to be addictive. Take, for example, Facebook. On Facebook, you can do a million different things. You can scroll through somebody's news feed. You can look at pictures that they've taken. You can post your own pictures. You can post updates. You can search for friends. You can read political rants. You can read news articles. You can watch entertaining videos. You can watch uh, videos of dancing cats. There's all kinds of things that you can do on Facebook. And the reason that they have such a variety of things there is because they know how to get us addicted. There's enough, the main things that get us our attention on social media are things that either cause us to be angry or that scare us. So Facebook will make sure that there's plenty of things that make us angry or that seem scary and threatening to us, because they know that we'll click on it and we'll get enthralled by it and we'll spend more time on it and we'll see more ads. And the stress level goes up. The angrier we get, the more afraid that we get of something. It captivates us. And we realize, we're not doing well. So normally we would move away from the source of the bad news, what's making us angry or what's making us afraid. But no, the next thing that you see on Facebook is a video of a laughing baby. And you can relieve your stress so much easier by just scrolling a little bit and watching that video. And then you start feeling better, and so you want to keep on looking at things that make you happy. And then you come across something that makes you angry, and you automatically click on that. And you get into this cycle of having too many negative emotions, wanting to find something to relieve them, spending a bunch of time having positive emotions, getting distracted by something negative, and before you know it, you spend an hour or 2 hours on social media. So a good strategy is to limit the use of social media. And what that means for each individual varies quite a bit. And it's good to experiment. Maybe spend a whole week or a whole month without looking at Facebook. Find out if that has really limited your effectiveness and usefulness for God or not, and to evaluate what the social media is actually doing for you. Another thing to evaluate is to look at the type of communication that you have with others on that technology or that social media. Good communication is characterized by two things: the accurate transmission of information. It's giving you accurate information and you're receiving it accurately. So truth is super important to communication. And then good communication will develop an emotional connection with the person that you're communicating with, which permits mutual understanding and responses to others' needs. I feel really bad because I forgot the apostrophe in others. Oh no, I have Technostress. Feeling incompetent because of an error I've made on technology, but I'll survive. So we need to focus on means of communication that are a source of truth and also which permit us to better love people. And it's quite possible that going down Facebook and giving likes or posting things so that you get likes isn't really doing either of those things. So we need to evaluate how much good communication are we actually having on the individual level as a response to Technostress. Now, on the organizational level, what can we do as organizational leaders? Well, one thing is to only mandate the use of a technology when there's adequate training and technical support for that technology. Don't just force missionaries, force church members, force people on your team to use technology unless you can really provide the support and the training and the documentation to make it really run smoothly for them. You also need to provide sufficient information to convince the new users that making whatever change that you're requesting is in their interest. They have to want to see the value of using some new software. Otherwise, it becomes another source of stress. It's going to cost. Uh, uh, it's going to interfere with other ministries, and it can damage relationships even. So we need to make sure that we sell the technology so that people want to use it. And if we can't, maybe we shouldn't force people to use it if it's really not going to benefit them. If it's just going to benefit us and it's not going to benefit them, I don't quite know how that fits into the idea of being loving. And then also on an organizational level, we need to encourage innovation and permit failures. Now that's easy to say, but a lot depends on the leaders that are over us. If we have leaders that have a history of innovation and vision, they can catch that idea that yes, you need to innovate, you need to experiment, you need to try things, you need to have the freedom to fail, and that makes technology less scary when we have those freedoms. However, when we have leaders that are focused on they're chosen because they're good at maintaining the status quo, or they've got administrative gifts and they can fill out the paperwork really well. Those types of people in responsibility might be less tolerant of innovation and failure with technology or change and adaptation, and that can create an awful lot of stress. A third organizational recommendation is to uh, in missionary meetings to program technology-related support and information sharing. Make sure missionaries are talking about the type of technology they're using, the problems they're having, give them plenty of opportunities to support one another because the problems that they'll be having are similar enough and the wisdom that they've gained valuable enough that they'll want to share it with each other and they can benefit from each other's experiences. So this is a short overview of some of the things that cause technostress in missionaries' lives and some of the things that can be done to reduce it.